Greetings, welcome to the devlog for Alpha 1 of Update 105 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we have got a fun new toy and some major upgrades, continuing work on our wrist menu, as well as the re-enabling of saving and loading, which is the big thing that we're going to be testing this week. So let's take a look at our new toy. Courtesy of Mikkel, the fine fellow who donated to us our wonderful 5-shot shotgun speed loader, I give to you the Pentagon. Just look at this beast. This was a prototype 5-shot shotgun revolver. To my knowledge, literally only one prototype of it was ever built. It's a break-forward shotgun revolver, which honestly looks kind of cool. And apparently, just like as the way it functions, when the hammer cocks, the barrel moves back, I think like something like 1.5 millimeters to create a gas seal with the actual revolver chamber. Let's take some shots. Beastly sounding. Out of ammo like that. It does not automatically eject when you break it open. You actually have to use the ejector at what looks like a cocking lever, but is actually an ejector. I will never tire of revolver shotguns. I mean, it's just like combining, the most cool, sort of antiquated gun patterns together. Just absolutely mean looking. It can in fact mount a muzzle device if you want. Let's see, what do I think about its sights? Let's put this out a little bit further. Sheet, begin new set. I didn't actually test the zero on these. Not that you're really going to be engaging things at range with this, but yeah, I mean, it's bucks, so that's reasonable. We definitely hit the target all over. Yeah, totally reasonable irons. Not the quickest to acquire, but let's be honest, we're going to be hip firing this half the time anyway. So much fun. Sorry, ceiling. So there you have the Pentagon. Let's jump over to the proving grounds real quick, though, to show you what I spent a majority of this week's time on. So, we are over here in the proving ground. Let's take a look at the thing that I've been spending most of my time on, which is expanding the ability to basically some of our core tools. In scenes that allow it, you'll now be able to spawn the ammo panel directly to your hand right out of the wrist menu. Oops. Actually helps to lock that. I should really finally make a visual indication of that. But even more importantly, we can now spawn the toolbox directly to our hands. This is how you're going to access it in scenes that allow scene saving. And we've got our tools here as before. We have the beginnings of another set here. I've already shown off the no clipper in other scenes, which allows you to fly around, and the gun actually now becomes non-physical when you hold it, so you don't go through a wall and leave the gun behind. We also have the measurizer, which just allows us to measure the distance between 2 points while we're working. Hit the touchpad to change it. Can boop. Just a simple tool. I might make it so you can move the points. I wasn't sure what would be the most convenient versus the most simple, but I just implemented it super simple to begin with, because there are frequently folks who want to just be like, I'm gonna have the player stand here, right? And I want to make sure that I want to see where the 15-meter mark is. Yeah, actually, now that I say that, I should be able to let you move this. The measurement actually comes along with you, so it's always placed at the closest point for you to the line. So yeah, now that I'm literally saying and demoing that, I should make it so you can move that point, which I totally will next week. It's a whole thing. You make a tool, you think about it for a lot, and then it's only when you explain to someone how it works or doesn't that you're like, wait a minute, that was dumb. And then the other big thing that is present now is we have what are called tool panels. These are located in the top part of our toolbox. The first one is very simple. It is an object information and metadata debug panel. And the way all tool panels work is they can be taken out and stowed back, and they have a stylus that you can grab from either side, not for writing on the tablet, but for pointing at various sorts of objects. So in the case of this one, we can point it at an object, we can get its position and rotation information, we can get whether it is locked or pickup locked, and importantly, especially for you modder folk, if you want to just check all of your tags on the FVR object and item spawner ID, you can do so just to make sure you didn't forget something, or if something is behaving how you don't expect, you can confirm it with this tool. Then we can just pop that back in, and we can pop that back in there. We also have, as you can see written right there, and this took a little bit of finagling, I have a portable version of the item spawner. It differs from the primary ones a couple ways. It doesn't have a video splash page, so it's not just using up that little bit of overhead. When you pull it out, when you put this in a quick belt, it disables the screen, which helps keep this a simple physics object when you are moving around and not needing its functionality. Item spawners are expensive, and so it's one of those things that got to be careful with this. But we've got a couple cool pieces of functionality with this. The first is that anything that we want to spawn, like say, I don't know, this handgun here, what we do is we pick our handy dandy stylus up, we point at something. Oops, is that against the wall? You know what? This is only raycasting against the environment. I need to change it to raycast against everything. That's easily enough done, because you clearly want to be able to put things on tables. But yeah, so we can now just do toys and tools, I don't know, destructible targets, watermelons. Is that spawn? There we go. Blast it. That isn't what I wanted. Boop. Right now, it is not doing some of the smart bounds checking that the cloner does, where it actually raises up the object. It's trying to spawn the center of the object right at that point. So I do need to change to tune some things up. It's a little harder when pulling an object that isn't already in the scene, because you can't generate bounds with objects that aren't instantiated. It's super stupid like that. But yeah, still a work in progress. But yeah, so you have that ability. You also have the ability with the save load system here to actually, let me go back to here. Let me spawn a magazine just to prove that it works. Load that up, drop it, point this stylus at it, go to the save load system. We now have something called in this portable version laser select, which allows you to do a new scan and just scan the object that you're pointed at with this. Call this cool pistol for cool people. Saved file. It's now there. And now when I select this, I can just use this pen and just spawn myself more of them, etc. So hopefully that should make the process of pulling out objects for constructing scenes dramatically more convenient. I had originally planned to make a palette thing that you would load objects onto you and then would save the list of the palette, and I realized very quickly, I'm just duplicating a bunch of the functionality of the item spawner, and people are just going to be like, why can't I just bring the item spawner around with me? So here you go. Yes, I know some of the text is small, and for based upon which HMD you're using, you might totally have to go like that to read some of it. It's nothing real I can do. The whole thing was designed at that size, and now it's this size, but thankfully can be much closer. So, but yeah, so here you have it. That's my big thing this week. Bop, 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 bop. Wonderful. Other than getting saving and loading working again. Now, some important things to understand about the saving and loading. Everything obviously does not save and load perfectly yet. I have tried to make secondary magazines work correctly as well as attachable weapon magazines. There's still some kinks of that I am working out. It should just give you a sound if something doesn't work and not just like air out and break your game. If it airs out and completely breaks your game when you try to save or load something with vanilla content, I would really like to know with a detailed reproduction case in the bug report section of the forums. But yeah, other than that, I'm just going to keep working on that. As I said, with the purpose of being able to get our sort of basic tools and basic scenario saving and loading working. So you should now be able to, in the hangar scene here, and I don't really quite recommend it because of the way the SOSIG stuff is set up in the grill house. You'll be able to save and load things. Yeah. Whew. Exhausting. Anywho, let's jump out of VR and I'll talk about the last couple things that I got working and am trying to get together for update 105. Yo! Out of VR. So first off, I fixed the vector mag drop bug. I know that was super annoying for you folks. Anyone who grabbed before the vector would just go boop. So that has been fixed. Beyond that, some things involving attachable weapons and ammunition for them were still corner cases that I think that I have fixed. Stuff where like clearing the scene of magazines could sometimes rip the magazine out of an attachable weapon because that system worked on an incorrect assumption. And this is, honestly, one of the things like anytime I'm dealing with a situation where someone requests a feature, right? And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that, which very quickly gets translated in the community to that's impossible. One of the reasons that I tend to throw certain features into that category has to do with unforeseen interactions. Like I will know, like in the case of adding magazines to attachable weapons, I knew the moment I did that, a whole bunch of code that exists scattered across the game that had an assumption embedded in its structure, which is that a magazine is either on its own, held in a quick belt, or in a firearm was no longer true. In a sense, there is now a fifth state that a magazine could be in. It could be attached to an attachable firearm, which is not the same thing as a firearm. And now, all of a sudden, by introducing that, there's all of this little subtle information that is broken, logic that is broken in the game. And I am sure I'm going to continue to be finding those bugs related to that change for months. It's just the nature of doing an architectural change like this. And so, yeah, so that's just to give you an idea of why I will oftentimes have to build up to these big changes and be like, okay, I'm finally going to tackle X. It's knowing full well that by implementing that new feature with the amount of code that is in this game and the amount of content, that what I'm effectively doing is going, I'm going to create a whole bunch of bugs in the game that are going to take months to root out and fix. And some of them may go unknown and unfixed and non-understood for far too long. So that's the cleanup that I'm currently doing, is going around the project and finding all the ways that things have broken now that attachments can have magazines too. And it's probably still going to take a while. I've just tuned up in this update some take and hold related stuff in regards to that. The ammo reloader should now correctly reload magazines in attached weapons, and it should detect them correctly. And the object constructor should now actually spawn magazines for attachable weapons, I hope. So, but yeah. But that is all in there. I'm going to, for the whole point, this is our alpha release this week, which means I'm hoping to go full release next week. I'm not quite sure what else I'm going to throw in there for fun to begin, because we're in Spooktober, and I haven't quite decided. I've got some scattered stuff for Spooktober, but I haven't exactly figured out how I'm going to slot it in there. But I want to be back on main branch release for a little bit. And I might end up making just like update 106 something small and cute. We'll see, just so that I can not have to do. I do not want to do. I'll tell you what I don't want to do is do another like, oh my goodness, freaking 2 months of experimental builds. No, I would like to not do that. I want to keep things into smaller, tighter, sort of full numbered releases, in part because we are headed towards the holiday season. And the last thing that I can afford is to start some big I tear things apart structure where all of a sudden I can't release Meat Mist stuff because I can't push a full release. So expect everything that I'm doing for the rest of the year to be a little more bite size and a little more privileged towards it's on the main branch. Sort of thing, precisely because of the fact that I want to make sure that everything is as smooth as can be going into the holidays, because man, I've got some great content for you folks for that. So anywho, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Please, those of you who are running the Alpha branch, give the toolbox tools a shot. They're all work in progress, and they're going to continue to evolve and improve as I build more and more stuff related to custom scenario saving. I know a bunch of you probably have questions about like how sharing will work and things like that, and those systems are still being constructed, and I will have more information on them soon. But until then, give them a shot. And we'll get these banged into shape and hopefully begin an entirely new era of H3 with people making, custom scenarios as I bring all that functionality online. So, wish you the best. Peace.